As I said, greetings to all of you and welcome to the first webinar that PropData is going to be putting on as part of a series. For those of you who are not familiar with PropData, I just wanted to give you a bit of background about our company. We're a very specialist online marketing and software development company specializing in the real estate market and sector. We've actually been in operation now since 1999, and we've assisted hundreds of brands, leading real estate brands, launch and maintain a successful presence on the World Wide Web. We'd love you to visit our website if you're not familiar with our company and our service offering, just to understand a bit more about what we are. But looking from the attendees list, which I viewed just before the webinar, it would seem that a lot of you are current clients and are very familiar with what we do and the service offering that we present the real estate market. Just to give you a bit of background to the reasoning behind these webinars, the core focus here is we want to empower you, the real estate professional. We want you to enhance your operations, make better business decisions, and reach your goals. PropData has always been about building the real estate professional community, and specifically around digital marketing and the software ecosystem. So we're going to continue that theme through the course of the year. Many of you will be familiar with the online course that we presented last year and developed. And that was a really great course with great content around all facets of online marketing and how to promote yourself as a real estate professional and brand. And again, these webinars are going to continue that theme with the purpose of identifying some really key topics that we believe are going to move the dial in the real estate sector in the next sort of 12 to 18 months. I'll just reiterate, our core emphasis here is around upskilling and educating the industry. That has always been our goal as a sort of marketing-based firm. And we want to share all of our knowledge with you in the hopes that you can leverage it to promote yourselves and grow your businesses over time. I'm Mark Buttress, the CEO of the company. I've been involved with the company for many years now and taken over sort of leadership of the company around 4 years ago now. I'm joined by some panelists from PropData, our creative director, Nick Warrington. Nick has been the creative director for PropData now for over 15 years. And he's helped develop real estate brands and online experiences for much of that time with PropData. His eye for design can help you build a brand that stands out in the crowd in the industry and connects you with clients. So we welcome Nick. Hi, Nick. How are you doing? On the line with us.
Thanks, Mark. Good morning, everyone.
We're also joined today by our client liaison manager, Wendy Allnett. She joined the team a couple of years back now. She's worked with many real estate agencies, for example, Just Property and the Brawl Property Group through her career. And she brings a wealth of experience into our account management and project management team. She works with many of our leading clients and has been involved with quite a number of quite prolific projects that we've sort of outputted for our various clients. So her experience in terms of commentary on the various topics we're going to cover today is a great asset. So welcome, Wendy. She's also on the line today.
Morning, everybody.
Just some other formalities. We have sort of gone with a hashtag concept, which we're trying to sort of promote these webinars via the various social media platforms. So if you're able to comment on these webinar series, whether it be via the content that you see online or just by posts that you want to share with the industry at large, if you could perhaps use the hashtag PropDataWebinars whenever you mention or relate the information to others in the industry, we'd be very grateful. We're wanting to spread the word of these webinars as much as possible, and by using that hashtag, you'll be able to assist us with that. You can also follow us on Facebook via our Facebook business page at PropData. And again, we're going to be releasing a lot of information via that social medium in terms of the webinars, the content, and the various topics that we're going to be covering. Just some other formalities. If you have a question that you would like to raise, the Zoom platform that we use has a Q&A facility. It's a tool in the bottom of your Zoom video window, and you're able to post questions there at will. We will be reviewing those questions at the end of the webinar, and we're going to pick 10 of the most upvoted questions that are raised and do live answers or conduct live answers of those particular questions. So you'll notice when you post a question there, you'll be able to upvote it, and we will be selecting from the most popular there. In addition to that, there will also be a poll that we'll be running. So that's another tool set in the Zoom video interface. And there's a question there that you'll see that we've posted. And it would be great if you can give us some feedback on the poll. We'll be discussing that a bit later. And it really is a medium to try and highlight to you where the obvious gaps lie in terms of you as an agent being able to promote yourself as a brand. So without further ado, we're gonna carry on with the presentation. I'd like to start off the presentation just by introducing what we're looking to cover today. So here are some high-level topics. Obviously the general topic that we've picked for today is building your brand as an agent. And we've looked to break that down into various subsections to contextualize it as much as possible. So the first topic we want to cover is what is a brand? And we're going to give particular reference to this from you as an agent perspective or standpoint. We'll then look at why the brand matters to you as an agent, how you can look to create a brand strategy from an agent perspective. And then we're going to spend quite a bit of detailed time looking at the various elements, particularly digital elements that you need to be aware of for building your brand online. At the end of all of those sort of features or suggestions, we'll then look at a bit of a promo that we're running at Prop Data. Many of you might have seen this communication come out recently, and it's around an agent profile page, custom agent profile page solution, which we're offering to the market. And we'll talk about how that can sort of assist you in your brand profiling and your brand exposure. So moving on, the next few slides are talking about brands specifically. So I'm going to be handing over to my colleague, Nick, who's our brand creative director, and he obviously has a lot of insight into this. Just a reminder about the poll, we'd really like your feedback as much as possible. So yeah, let's get kicked into the webinar, and Nick, I'd like to hand over to you just to cover these branding aspects.
Thanks, Mark. Okay, so let's just talk about what is a brand. So obviously, a lot of you guys will work for real estate companies, and your businesses will have their own brands. But let's just define what a brand is first. It's a bit of a cheesy picture here. So it's definitely not, a 500 Rand haircut and a colorful pocket handkerchief and a very nice watch. This picture does kind of speak to what a brand means from an agent perspective, because although your company has a brand and it may have a set of guidelines that define what that brand is in terms of visuals and how to implement the brand from a company perspective, you yourself are brands as well, and that's what we're going to talk about a lot today. So a brand, when you think of a brand, you've got to think of it as kind of like a puzzle, and all the pieces of that puzzle are the things that a lot of people think of as a brand, like your logo and your business cards and your boards and that. But really, a brand is it's a much bigger piece. It's really the whole puzzle, and it can be made up of your logo, the copy, the way you the copy in your marketing, the way you answer the phone, even the way you dress, which is why this image is applicable in this case. To your website, your social media presence, all of these little pieces, they make up that big picture, which is your brand. And your company, obviously, that you work for will have a brand and could have a strategy in place. But it's important as an agent that you start to think of yourself as a brand, because the best agents in the world, they're not relying wholly on you know, their agencies to market them. You know, they're at the top of their game because, you know, they have clients wanting to work with them because they're promoting themselves as a brand specifically. Yeah, so that's something we're going to talk about a little bit more in detail today. So Mark, if you want to, let's go to the next slide. So why does a brand matter? Well, from an agent point of view, it matters because you want to stand out. You know, the most important thing in terms of marketing yourself as a brand from an agent perspective is you know, there's a sea of agents out there. A lot of them will be in your own agency, and you're all competing for leads, you're competing for mandates, and you want to stand out of the crowd. So, like I said, the best agents in the world are promoting themselves as brands. Another thing is consistency. You know, it's really important that your brand is consistent across all media. So when someone goes from a board to you know, a website or an agent profile page, when they see your business cards, when they see the way you engage with them on social media, you want there to be consistency. You know, there's got to be consistency in terms of the tone, your personality, the artwork, all of those little pieces of that puzzle I spoke about. All of those pieces need to fit together to make a unified front. Yeah, I think those are the most important things there, Mark, in terms of why it matters from an agent perspective.
Great insights there, Nick.
So
yeah, let's talk about this now, how to create this brand and the strategy behind it.
Yeah, so in terms of strategy, I mean, you know, organizations and companies spend huge amounts of money with you know, agencies that specialize in strategizing brands. But from an agent perspective, for you guys, I think the most important thing is just to sit down and start thinking about this stuff. You know, I think just in the process of sitting down and you know, asking how you want to put yourself out there and what are the steps needed to get there, you're really going to start putting together a strategy. You know, that's really what we're talking about in terms of a strategy for agent branding. And there's a few steps we can go through. You know, an important thing is to know who you're talking to, because that's going to define a lot of how you structure your messaging and you know, what your tone of voice is and your imagery that you use and that. So let's go to the next slide, Mark. And I think this is very important, because there are other questions to ask, but I think the most important thing is, what is the journey you want your clients to take with you? You know, the answers to this question will guide a lot of the elements in your branding, like the messaging, the tone of voice, and the imagery. It's something you can answer, but I think it's more important to get the answer to this question from your actual clients or prospective clients. You know, you don't want to have the answer to this question be something you're assuming. You really want to get the answer to this question from the people that you're actually going to be dealing with. And to do this, what we recommend you guys do is define what we call user personas or target personas. So we go to the next slide there. Yeah, so what is a persona? This is something that's come up and it's become very popular in designing software and services over the last 10 years. You might not be familiar with the term, but it's basically a fictional person based on a set of shared characteristics by your clients. So it just makes it easier when you're trying to talk to someone in terms of your marketing or the blog posts that you write or your online social media content. When you're producing all this stuff, it makes it a lot easier to define who that person is that you're talking to, or the set of people, because you might have a couple personas. It makes it a lot easier to define that person than just be, okay, I'm talking to a generic everyone. So we definitely recommend defining your personas. And there's like, for example, the following personas could be created for a sales agency in Cape Town. Cape Town's Atlantic Seaboard. Young professional buyers between 25 and 35 years. Serious investors looking to build a portfolio of rental apartments, or overseas buyers looking for a holiday home. So that's three distinct groups, that are very different individuals, but they might be the people that you're trying to talk to. And you can really, structure your content, stuff you're producing as a brand, around talking to those three groups. But it's good to define them and have them written out somewhere that you can refer to, so that you always go back and say, okay, am I actually talking to this person, instead of just focusing, having content that isn't related to the people I'm actually trying to engage with. So how do you get this information? How do you find out what your potential clients, what they look like? Well, you need to gather as much information as you can from analytics, Google Analytics on any existing websites, or through Facebook. Get a questionnaire out there and start asking some questions. Polls, polls are a good thing to do. Speak to experienced agents, who have a lot of history, relating to clients, and then you can just get a lot of information from them. But the best thing to do is actually just talk to your clients. Find out what their needs and fears and goals are, and what type of persona they fit into. And there's a very good free tool available on HubSpot, which we've used a bit. It's quite a fun process to go through, and you can go build your personas there. We'll let you do that in your own time. We won't open it up in this webinar, but it takes you through the steps of the questions you need to ask to get to build a persona.
Nick, there's a comment I'd like to just make at this point. All of this stuff around personas and fully understanding who the people that you're talking to from a prospective client basis is great. But I think what's also important to just reiterate, and you mentioned it earlier in the discussion, is being able to then bring out your personality and relate it to that sort of understanding. And I think the great agents that I've seen in the marketplace really exude their own personality and talk with their personality in terms of the personas that they're then engaging with from a prospective client perspective.
Yeah, that's another good point. It puts a face to who you're talking to, so it makes it a lot more human. And
it also allows you to stand out from the crowd at the end of the day, because it's a hyper competitive market. There are a lot of agents out there operating in the same hyper local environment that you are, and your personality and the way you talk to people and approach people is definitely something that can make you stand out from the crowd.
Yeah.
Okay, great, Nick. Those were some tremendous insights. So thank you very much for that. Just a reminder that the poll is running. We'd love your feedback there, because we want to share it with everyone. I think there'll be some very valuable insights we can glean from looking at those results at the end of the webinar. Okay, so now we want to get into the nuts and bolts of this and actually talk about some of the key elements that you're needing to be aware of and start adopting for the reason of building this brand and sort of marketing this brand of yours as an agent, to your prospective clients. So we want to spend some time going through each one of these elements. This will be the meat of the webinar, and we'll focus through and move through these as quickly as possible. We do just have an hour, so we do need to move quite quickly. I mean, we could spend all day talking about these things, but we're going to try and cover the core sort of elements of each element. So the first thing we want to talk about is probably one of the most critical pieces, and that's a conversion area or conversion space that you can lead your customers to once you've managed to engage them on whatever channel it is. We refer to these as either websites or agent profile pages. And the important thing to realize here is that this page, this space is the destination of all your marketing efforts. So if you're going to go to the extent of producing lots of content and reaching out via social media platforms to engage clients with this brand message that we've been discussing about, it's important that you can lead them back to a place where only your information is exposed to them. Because the last thing we want to do is bring them to a place where they're confused as to what to do next, or there's no clear call to actions, or just your specific exposure point is not clearly defined more specifically to them. So PropData has done a lot of work around this in terms of agent microsites and agent profile pages. And these are great pieces to be able to function as core landing pages or core spaces where you can look to engage with your prospective clients further and generate leads at the end of the day. Just to talk more specifically about these, an agent microsite. So that's a fully functional website where you can expose not only your profile and all your contact information and bio information, but obviously all the stock that you have available, and potentially all the stock that you might have sold or rented in the past, just to obviously convey your experience in the relative market that you're dealing with. So it's not something prolifically used in South Africa, although we do promote it quite extensively. Some agents have taken the leap and decided to set up their own microsite, which sits aside from their main brand or agency website. But if you think about the nuts and bolts of that, it's a great place to lead people where only your information is contained. And the main reason we're trying to do that, as I said, is heighten the ability for you to generate the lead that you spent all the energy trying to drag an eyeball back to your space. A slightly different approach is an agent profile page, as we've coined it. So this is a curated page which might exist on your current brand website. Okay, so if you're working for a national franchise group, or you're working for a fairly boutique agency in a particular area, they may have their own website already. But what we're wanting to do here is create a unique page on that website where we can showcase you, the real estate professional, in the best possible light. So if you can see on the right-hand side here, we're showing you an example of what we've done here for an agent. I think this is part of the Jarwitz property group. And you'll notice the key things there: a great bio write-up, really cool testimonials that we can include there. Obviously, all your contact information, things like easy links to all your listings and sold and rented property. And it's just a great package to really showcase your experience, and obviously strong calls to actions to generate leads once you've managed to lead people to these spaces. I want to bring Wendy in, if that's all right, Wens. I know you've worked on a lot of these types of sort of projects over the past while for various brands and agents. And maybe you can just give us a bit of insight to some of the feedback that you've had from agents just around the value of these things, in terms of their marketing arsenal. I don't know if there's any thoughts you can give us there.
Yeah, Mark. Our agents who've had agent microsites or agent profile pages have had great success with them, especially from a mobile point of view. They also refer to them as e-cards or e-business cards. So from their mobile devices, they can now share these profiles directly to their clients, either via WhatsApp or email, or straight to any social media platforms that they have. So that way they are targeting the clients that they want with their specific information and listings, and they're converting leads a lot quicker that way. So instead of clients going to a generic website and the agent is lost in a sea of other agents, you're now targeting your clients directly with your service offerings and your mandates and converting those leads directly to yourself.
Yeah. The other point I'd just like to make, speaking towards, a lot of what you've just said there, with these curated spaces now available, focusing just on the agent brand and profile, what we've at PropData have been able to start to introduce at an agent level is the ability to then start to leverage things like paid advertising online. Agents can now start to utilize Facebook advertising, Google AdWords and Google display advertising, even LinkedIn advertising, because they know that the money they're going to spend on those platforms to secure an inquiry or an eyeball, they can convert those people back to a very localized page, which is obviously just their information. So we've seen a lot of uptake for agents spending their own dollars around paid advertising campaigns now that they've got this unique conversion space.
Correct.
Just something to mention from a PropData perspective, I mean, specifically with the agent profile page that we've spoken about, in order to get that from a PropData, as a PropData service, you would need to have an existing PropData website package with us. So unfortunately, we don't offer those profile pages independently. They need to be part of a website solution that we would have signed a client up on. So just be aware of that. One of the things we're going to mention when we discuss the promo at the end of the webinar is that we're actually doing a massive promo on our starter website package offering at the moment, and we've reduced that down to 500 Rand per month, which is really making it palatable to even agents on an ongoing basis to set up their own microsites so they can start to leverage a lot of these capabilities. So thanks, Wenz. That's some great insight there. Yeah, just to reiterate what Wendy was saying about the e-business card, I know there's a lot of this concept floating around at the moment. We design these profile pages so that they function as an e-business card on the Mobi version of the page. And like I said, there's loads of really cool functionality packaged there, easy share options. It presents really well on a smartphone, and it's easy to disseminate via social media and mobile mediums, from the page interface itself. Cool. So that hopefully gives everyone some insight into what we're referring to in terms of microsites and agent profile pages. The next topic we want to talk about is email marketing. So many of you obviously might use this currently. We've taken the concept of newsletters and promotional mailers to the next level, I would suggest. Our platform currently provides the ability to do agent-focused newsletters. So I'm sure many of you have your agency or brand sending out monthly newsletters, which is really talking about your branch or the area or your holistic company brand. But what we feel is very important is the ability to send out newsletter communication on an ongoing basis, which is very much hyper-locally focused about you as the agent in the area and the community that you serve. The key here is that you're obviously building a one-to-one relationship with a prospective client base on an ongoing basis. And you're just touching with them with your brand message ongoing. They may not be in the market now for property to buy or rent, but just by touching them with useful, informative information on an ongoing basis, you're able to maintain that relationship with them over time. Nick, I don't know if you've got any.
I think in terms of, Mark, just to jump in there, in terms of promotional email, and newsletters, a lot of these things we automate through our platform, like alerts for reduced properties, or property email alerts for new properties that match people's buyers or tenants' criteria. But I think in terms of promotional email, the thing to really think about here is what is going to add value to your potential clients or your existing clients. So we'll talk just now about blogging and becoming a commentator, not just for real estate in the local area that you operate in, but for anything that's hyper local. I think that's the sort of content that you want to drive towards your audience through email, because that's going to add value. So it's the kind of thing you must just, I think a good way to look at it is, what is the kind of things I would like to get? It's not just about bombarding them with properties. It's about giving them information that they can find value in.
Yeah. So I mean, Nick, just to speak to that, some of the things we can highlight as ideas is community and neighborhood news, for example, very relevant and hyperlocal to the audience that you're talking to. Specific expert advice. If you're a very skilled agent and you are up to speed with all the legal and industry sort of trends, that's sort of some of the information you can start to disseminate via newsletters. Obviously more generalistic industry and market news. Things like home improvement ideas are obviously quite useful. Client testimonials, your own client testimonials, giving reassurance to the audience that you're speaking to that you're the professional they want to deal with. And then also success stories and other promotional stuff that you might just want to generally communicate to your client base. So these are just all ideas that you can start to encapsulate in terms of what the content is that you can start to integrate into a successful newsletter or email marketing sort of campaign. The last thing, their email signatures. This tends to be very much forgotten in many respects. Most real estate agents will have a professionally designed email signature, and it's important to stress the concept of that. Obviously, you want to be able to display essential contact information in your signature, but it's obviously way more than that. If you think about how much transactional mail you on a month-to-month or week-to-week basis engage with prospective clients, it's an inordinate amount of potential space where you can market to these people. So clever things like links to your agent profile page that we've spoken about, or dynamic content, links to your listings, links to your social media platforms, just ways and means of allowing your prospective client to further engage with your exposure points. I think an email signature offers a lot of value. Nick, I don't know if you've got any comment just around the design of that and the importance of the way that needs to be structured.
Emails for email signature, I would just keep it for anything like this, keep it as uncluttered as possible. I would steer away from trying to jam as much content in it as possible. A lot of like your physical address and things like that, they can get from the website. You don't need to put your fax number in there, and just keep it as clean, as simple as possible, because a lot of these email platforms now, they stack emails, and you're gonna have these signatures repeated in a stream, and you just want them as simple as possible. But you can have things, links to get directions to your office, for example, or view my listings, things like that. But just try to keep the actual design as clean and as uncluttered as possible.
Just something worth mentioning about email signature and just general email branding. PropData now offer an automated email branding solution, which is great for offices and brands, because now you don't need to battle with actually saving an email signature in your mail client. I'm sure many in attendance today have battled with that at one point and another. So this platform of ours, just once the design and the signature has been developed, we automate the attachment of that signature, so you don't need to save that at your local mail client level. The other beauty of that is that we can also attach other promotional type branding content. So for example, if you're promoting a new development that you've launched or an estate that you're working in, we can bring in really cool banner type advertising into your email communication as well, which just gives you another way, again, to convert people back to your brand spaces that we've been talking about. So yeah, hopefully that's given you a bit of insight around the use of email marketing. So if we move on, we now want to talk about a very important aspect or topic, something Prop Data has always sort of been banging the drum on, and that revolves around content. So unfortunately, from a South African real estate perspective, this is generally something not done very well, particularly at an agent level. And if we talk more high level, I mean, content is just a great way for you to showcase your expertise. What a lot of real estate agents don't realize is that the world has moved on. Your prospective client is very educated. They have a smart device in their hand, and they know how to find information when they want and how they want. So it's vitally important that you're able to put content out there that resonates with what people are actually searching for. So from a real estate perspective, you know, when a prospective buyer or tenant is looking at a transaction, they're looking to buy a house or rent a house in a specific area, they will be educating themselves and finding out as much information as they can before they make an inquiry or a purchase decision. And it's vital that you're able to have exposure points around content that, you know, that answer some of these things that they're searching for. So we've given some examples there, you know, types of content that you as an agent can start to blog about. 5 great restaurants around your area. You've interviewed a local headmaster and he's giving you a whole lot of information about what's happening at that school and some trends in the, in the education space, which might be very relevant to parents in that area. You know, up and coming property developments in your area that might be very useful for someone looking to invest. 8 fun winter activities in your area. People search for this type of information, wanting to understand more about their community and what's happening. Did you know about this, you know, in terms of your area? 5 fun facts. So, I mean, these are all very resonant, you know, in terms of you as the area expert and some of the things you may know and have the IP on that you need to just expose by writing blog articles and exposing them via a microsite, or an agent microsite, like we've discussed.
And the great thing about this sort of content, guys, is that it's what we call evergreen content. It's not, you know, it will, people will continue to search for this sort of stuff continually. So you can go and update these blog articles over time, but it's gonna provide value in terms of attracting people to your website or your agent profile page or your microsite for a long time, you know, because people are going to continually search for this kind of information.
Yeah. We've coined the term content is king. And, you know, like Nick says, if you want to bring streams of traffic and eyeballs and potential clients to your conversion spaces, having this type of content in place is almost a forever solution. You know, you're all grappling with increasing advertising costs. I see our friends Property 24 have increased their prices by almost 18% this quarter. So these are the types of alternative things you need to be focusing on and starting to understand in terms of trying to bring more traffic and eyeballs and potential customers to your conversion spaces. So content is definitely something that you need to be very aware of. If you're not a great copywriter, that doesn't matter. There are many freelance copywriters out there who will happily work with you, understand your requirements, and put out very valuable and useful information. You know, giving someone like a copywriter exposure to your persona makeup that we talked about earlier will also allow them to come up with useful and interesting topics that they can start to write about to help you expose yourself a bit more. And I think the key there, I think Nick mentioned it earlier, is that yes, we want to make this content very relevant to real estate where we can, but it doesn't necessarily have to be 100% about real estate. It can be more generalistic topics that you know are very search friendly or relevant to the community that you're involved with. And the more content pieces like this you put out, the more likelihood you're able to reach and engage people when they're searching for this type of information via the search engines. So yeah, that's a great piece about content. Obviously, Prop Data have their own content writers in-house. We've got numerous expertise in this field, and we write a lot of these types of articles for all sorts of real estate companies, from individual agents right through to national franchise groups. So speak to us if you're at a loss in terms of how to produce this copy. Okay, another big one. Just looking at the poll, we'll talk about those results a bit later, but a lot of you are saying you use social media, which is great.
Mark, just on the poll, sorry, just to interject there, it looks like it's not multiple choice, the poll. It looks like it's a single choice. So,
yeah, so I think it has. People have just been selecting a single option there.
Yeah,
so
yeah, it hasn't generated as a multiple choice. So we just have to bear that in mind when looking at those results.
Fair enough. Okay. So yeah, social media, obviously many platforms out there. We've got some of the most important ones listed, particularly from a South African real estate context perspective. We want to talk just very briefly. I mean, I think the important point about this is that as an agent, I don't think you can be as prolific on all of these as you would like to. So I think it's important that you pick the platforms that you know are more relevant to the potential consumer base that you are talking to. So what I'm referring to there is, for example, Facebook might be more inclined or lean towards a residential type consumer base, given its, it's very community-based sort of orientation, whereas something like a LinkedIn might be more focused towards a more commercial sort of part of the sector, a more professional space where you've got working professionals reading information, engaging with information, and obviously showcasing their profiles as experts. Yeah. So I think
a great thing, sorry, Mark, about social media now is, although you need to keep it very professional, it is a platform where you can really bring out your personality. And that's something we've already spoken about a little bit today, and we'll cover a little bit more, is really that's what we want, or we feel you guys should be doing in terms of your brand, is you want to stand out. And you're not going to do that if you don't bring out your personality a little bit. Mark, just see the presentation's gone off your screen there.
Apologies. Don't know what's happened there. Just bear with me. Bring it back. There we go. Sorry.
So this is a great space to bring out your personality. As long as it's done professionally, people want to see that you're unique. They want to see that you're talking to them as individuals. And this is a great space to do that.
Yeah. Just if we talk a bit of detail about each of these, and I'm going to pick out a couple that are more relevant. So Facebook, I'm sure most of you are on it in your private capacity. Many of you might have your own business pages. Many millions of users that you can potentially target as an audience. Just some of the things that you should be focusing on is obviously posts on an ongoing basis. I think the thing to really emphasize about Facebook is consistency. You can't expect to post and release information via Facebook channel once a week or once a month and expect to attain a following and leverage the kind of conversion and information sharing as you would want, potentially hope for. So Facebook is really about consistency. Ideally, you need to be posting once a day because that consistency will build a following, and that following then grows the viral effect that Facebook offers you as a platform. So I think that's very important to emphasize. Just some of the bits of information that you can start to post and expose on Facebook. Obviously, just general posts about your area, property posts, for example, the one that we've got in the slide there in terms of featuring on shows or newly released listings. You can obviously boost posts. So if you've got a really cool article that you've written about a community activity or something like that, will be very informative and useful to a user base, you can obviously pay to have that exposed to a greater audience. But then just very general stuff like imagery and video. One of the examples we're going to show you in the next screen just shows you a really innovative way around how an agent has used the video medium to really bring out his personality and grow that viral effect in terms of consumers wanting to engage with that content. So, you know, there's an array of different types of media and content you can release on Facebook, but consistency, I think, is the key. And as Nick mentioned, bringing out your personality as part of that is also important. You don't just want a stream of properties on your Facebook business timeline. You want to bring in your personality and some uniqueness there. Twitter, obviously another massive platform globally, not as big from a South African context, but there are many users on Twitter on a daily basis within the South African space or context. So we haven't played too much with that in terms of usage with our own client examples, but obviously a great way to disseminate information, more obviously text-based, although they do allow imagery and video now as well. Instagram, obviously owned by Facebook. Many of you will have your own personal Instagram accounts. What's quite nice about Instagram is that if you do start to release or post more visual content and promote it via sort of paid mediums or paid options in Facebook, you can obviously look to have that syndicated now via the Instagram channel. So there's a great opportunity there, especially if you're getting into the content space of creating, what's the word I'm looking for, like a community, great images of the area you work in, aspirational type images, properties, great viewable properties with great interiors that people aspire to. So there's a lot of useful stuff you can start to leveraging Instagram for as well. YouTube, obviously a video hosting service owned by Google. What many of you won't realize is that YouTube is actually probably the second biggest search engine in the world. So obviously Google, the native Google search engine is by far the most utilized, but YouTube is the second most utilized. So that's where people are searching for video content as opposed to contextual text content. And the millennials of this world, they will want to search for video type content as a first choice. So videos of properties, you'll see a video that we're about to show you in the next slide of interviews and useful contextual information about the communities that you operate in. All of these types of things can be exposed via YouTube and be found and be used to obviously convert people back to your personal spaces. Mm. Nick, I don't know if you've got any insight on Pinterest.
Well, just on YouTube, just to reiterate, I mean, that's really where, if you look at the growth of online content, video is where it's at, guys. Image is worth 1,000 words, a video is worth 1,000 images. That's really where things are going. So, I would look into bringing that into your brands in some way, and we'll look at a good example on the next slide, which Mark's already mentioned. But definitely look into video. I mean, Pinterest is very much like Instagram. It's it's very, very heavily image based, very much around promoting lifestyle and themed. You can really theme things in Pinterest. So if you wanted to start sharing themed visual content, that's a good place to do that.
Just briefly, the LinkedIn is obviously a more professional platform for showcasing individuals and in their professional working career space. We've seen a lot of sort of uptake around using that platform, particularly in the commercial industrial space. They offer obviously advertising mediums as well and different packages there. LinkedIn is also definitely a growing space in the South African real estate context as well. The last one I want to talk about is Google My Business. So there's another slide which we're going to talk about here, specifically about Google My Business. I'm sure many of you have heard about this. It's Google's global business directory. It is by far the largest global business directory in the world. Many of you will have your own agency and branch profile pages or business listing pages already configured. But the emphasis point we want to place here is for the ability, you, the agent, to set up your own business listing page. So I think it was last year, towards the middle of last year, Google made a change to this platform, which allowed for service professionals to set up their own instances of these business listings. And that, just looking at the example here of an agent from Remax, Ewan Combrink in the Helderberg area here down in the Cape, he's set up his own profile page. He's given a bit of a bio about himself. And anyone searching, we've given you the Google search interface there as part of it, just to illustrate what we're talking about. Anyone searching for Julian's information, which by the way, consumers will do. If you're looking to canvass a property owner and you're sending them communication, the first thing they're probably likely to do is Google you to find out more information about who you are and what you do. And by showcasing your business profile page here, your business listing page, you're able to give a bio, put in some imagery, some great other things there are reviews, which people can, clients, past clients can do and provide, commentary and testimonials. You're able to engage directly with customers from this interface. You can post content very much like you post content on Facebook and get comments and feedback off of that. So it really allows you to start a two-way conversation with clients without necessarily being on Facebook or one of these other social media platforms. The other big benefit, and what probably the most important benefit, is that by having a validated Google My Business listing like this, you can get visibility in the search engines without what we call ranking in the organic search results. So because it's validated and all the information is there and people are searching for estate agents or real estate professionals in a particular area, Google likes to surface these hyperlocal business listing results. And you stand the chance to be showcased like this in a very prominent format in the results pages of the Google search engine. So if you haven't done this yourself as an agent, go and register your own Google My Business Listing profile. There's some links at the bottom of this webinar deck, which we're going to be disseminating, which are links to Google's sort of help guide information about how to do this and the right things to do to set it up. So yeah, hopefully that's a lot of information for you to get going on that front. This is a really good brand effort on Facebook we were talking about. This agent Jared Jeffrey promoting, he's put a post on his Facebook business page. He's contextualized his own brand image with obviously the brand that he works for, the company brand, but then just a really strong call to action and a great showcase for himself on the Facebook platform. And we just wanted to play a very quick video for you about how he's taken that to the next level. It looks like he showcases each one of his new listings via a video that he does. And we just want to show you this because it's a great way of how he's trying to exuberate his personality and bring that into the fold in terms of the way he communicates with clients. So just take a listen and watch here.
Hit it! That's what I'm talking about. Wait! Okay, now, from the beginning.
Welcome to number 3 Beverly Drive. My latest listing at
kitchen.
Hang on, we're gonna get there. Offering 4 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms. Just wait, I'm coming. Sorry about that.
It's dive right in.
Right from the front door into the entrance hall.
Okay, so I think you get the idea. But that's just a great example of how Jared's managed to bring across his personality. And obviously he's very much going with the theme of comedian, and that's part of his personality. And that's not necessarily what all of you need to do as an agent, but I think it's important for you to find, that part of your personality that can really resonate with what you're trying to achieve in terms of resonating with your brand as an agent. Okay, let's move on. The next thing we want to talk about is actual paid online advertising. So as I mentioned earlier, we're now talking more and more to agents around looking at ways to do their own advertising campaigns now that we've given you spaces to convert leads and eyeballs to. Previously, you would have to have converted this to your brand agency website. and you might not necessarily reap the correct rewards, because a client visiting a general brand website or an agency website might get very lost in the sea of other agents and stock that are available on that particular website. So now that we've got these agent profile pages and agent microsites, you now have the ability to leverage paid advertising mediums, both on Facebook and Instagram, as well as on the Google platforms, to really target an audience, a much greater audience, with your particular value add or your particular value offering. So we've got examples there of two agents using Facebook, where they obviously are promoting their listings as part of a carousel ad, which is a type of Facebook ad on Facebook. And as part of that carousel ad, they've got strong call to actions, bold graphics, visuals of who they are as agents and their contact information, and obviously very strong call to actions. Any clicks off of these ads would then redirect those users to their specific personal spaces, which obviously gives you great ability to convert leads on an ongoing basis. The one on the left-hand side is obviously a Google AdWord. So that's when users are searching in Google for specific keywords or phrases. We can then target those specific subset of phrases and keywords and deliver consumers your particular ad, which exists right at the top of the Google search results. Nick, I don't know if you've got any comment that you might want to have, just in terms of how these can be best used from an agent perspective.
Yeah, no, I think you covered everything there, Mark. The important thing is again, consistency in whatever you're doing with your brand, and the tone. Just remember who you're talking to, word these things as if you're trying to appeal to the personas that you've worked out, and be consistent, visually and in the copy you use. Yeah, and then, like you said, try direct it to a page that is set up specifically for you so that they don't get lost. Yeah.
I think the other key thing here is that, we're always thinking about targeting these things for buyers and tenants, but for you as an agent, you can very much target and design these ads, talking to prospective homeowners or landlords that you might be looking to engage with. So they're great ways for securing new mandates and valuations that you may be looking to do for homeowners in your area. So PropData's got a lot of skill. We've got our own marketing team internally, which has an array of experience in terms of setting up these ad campaigns, and we can definitely guide you around the do's and don'ts of how to leverage these platforms for whatever the campaign whatever the call to action for the campaign is actually there to do. One of the things we haven't displayed here is Google Display, which is very much like Facebook, visual representation of the ads. And I'm sure you've seen these via the various classified websites. If you're on Gumtree or some of the news classified sites, you see various ads which are displayed on those mediums, which you can also start to leverage. So paid advertising, great way. Obviously, it does cost extra money. You will need to pay these platforms per click normally. The beauty of it, though, is that everything is tracked and monitored, which means that for every rand you spend on a click, we know exactly who those people are, whether they've converted to your personal space, whether they've generated a lead, and we call that ROI reporting, return on investment reporting. And that's where online paid advertising very much differentiates itself from more the traditional sort of print media advertising. And obviously being able to assess and monitor campaigns over time allow you to then manipulate them to get better results. The other thing about paid advertising campaigns, you're able to very much hyper-locally target an audience. So Google and Facebook know where people live, they know where they exist, they know what their interests are, they know what LSM group they come from, whether they're male or female. So there's a lot of targeting tools that these platforms allow us access to, or allow you access to specifically target your ads. And that's very important, because you don't want to just send blanket messages out there and engage people who are not part of that persona makeup that you're trying to identify and target with your information. Okay, cool. I'm going to move a bit quickly now. We're running out of time. I know we suggested an hour, but there are a couple more slides. Nick, I don't know if you want to talk just generally about print. I know it's not our sort of core focus, but we have helped agencies in the design, particularly with design elements around print.
Yeah, I think, I was just going to touch on this, but we are running out of time. It's really the important thing here is consistency. I think I mentioned it right in the beginning. You want, as someone travels through the different media that you have out there, you want them to see a consistent thread that just, portrays you as a professional who considers these things, at a minimum. That's what you want to bring across. Your boards are the same as there's a thread from your boards to your business cards to your social media to your website. That's the important thing, I think. And just keep it simple, just trust the designers that you work with. Try not to overclutter these things or complicate them. Less really is more with a lot of the stuff.
Okay. Cool. So if we have a look at the poll results, I'm going to end the poll now. So you can all see the results. And yeah, maybe if we can just discuss that now. I know it wasn't a multiple choice, so you could only select sort of one option there. But it very much looks like social media is the go-to current sort of medium for disseminating your brand message, which is great to hear because it is obviously a very strong platform with a lot of reach. I suppose the main thing I would like to just emphasize there is, again, the consistency part. So from my experience with engaging with real estate professionals, a lot of them will post very infrequently and only when they get a new listing, for example, or when they remember on a Sunday evening once a month. And to be honest with you, that's simply not good enough if you want to build a following and expose and leverage the viral effect of Facebook. Nick, I don't know if there's any insights you can glean from just looking at the poll results there as well.
I can't see the poll results, Mark.
Let me just make sure you can see them.
There we go. Okay. Yeah. Unfortunately, guys, sorry, we couldn't get, it wasn't a multiple choice, just an error on our side, but it's interesting to see that no one picked blog posts, which is something I think is really important. If you want to be deemed an expert on whatever you do, it wouldn't matter if you were in another industry. If you want to be seen as an expert, you really have to start writing about what you do. But in terms of from an agency level, like we said, it's so important to position yourself as area experts. People want to deal with someone who they knows the area. And if you're writing about things that are happening, you're a local commentator. Think of it in those terms. You know what events are coming up. When a big piece of land is going to be turned into a development. You know what's happening. You've got the pulse of the area you operate in. It's really going to help differentiate you at least from other agents who you're competing with in a hyper-localized area.
I think the other important point there, Nick, is if you're going to go to this effort of producing this blog content, it can be repurposed for multiple platforms or multiple exposure points.
Yeah.
So that same content could then be included in the newsletters that we've talked about. They can be included in the social media posts that you're going to start posting about. They can be put on your website just as general landing page pieces of information. Obviously, they're going to be exposed on the Google search results because Google's going to index that content. So it's not just your writing to hopefully get found and in the search engines. You can repurpose that content so that people can start being exposed to it via multiple channels. And I think that's an absolute key for everyone to understand. There's a lot of benefit by going through the effort of actually collating and producing that information.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got a couple more slides we just want to run through. The first thing we want to just cover here is just our agent profile page promo that we're running. So we're offering a significant discount on the setup of this profile page template solution. Remember all the benefits that we discussed earlier. The key thing to understand about this is that you will need to have an existing website solution with prop data for us to be able to set up and integrate these profile pages. The other big thing to just realize, if you're working with a brand already, we don't charge for each one of these pages per agent. It's a single template, which is then dynamic. So if you've got multiple agents working within the same office, then the same template can apply and morph and obviously render a page per agent, to put it fairly simply. So it's not a fee per agent, it's a fee per unique template, and that then applies for all agents working in the same office or agency as you. So I would really encourage those of you who don't have your own agent conversion space, get one of these in place, and then all these other elements that we're starting to talk about then start to make sense in terms of converting people to this particular environment. Let's recap. Nick, I don't know if you want to run through this, just what we've learned today and some of the important things that are key takeaways.
Yeah, so just very quickly, you know, we touched on what a brand is. I won't go into too much of that now, but I mean, just in terms of thinking of yourself as agents, as brands, you know, every little touch point you have with the client or that they engage with, it's part of your brand. You know, it's not just your logo or your company's logo. You've got to see yourself as the part of that big picture and really start marketing yourself. And that's really why it matters, is to differentiate yourself from all the other agents out there and become a top agent. You have to start marketing yourself as a brand. You know, you got to start thinking, and that's why I said it's important, just in terms of strategy, just to actually go through the process of sitting down and starting to think about this stuff. And that's where, you know, that's where your strategy can really come together and help to define how you want to communicate to people. Yeah, then we talked about, you know, those steps, asking the right questions and defining personas in terms of the process to create a strategy. Yeah, then there are different elements that really tie it together. So now you've got you know who you're talking to, you know the type of message you want to bring across. What are the vehicles to do that? We've given you some good examples there, I think, in terms of bringing across your message as an agent to your audience. And an agent profile page or a microsite or whatever you have as a destination is critical, because you want to be able to take advantage of all these different media, but you need to drive it to somewhere where you're not going to get lost in the sea of other agents or you know, competing information. You want it to be really about you, you know, your testimonials, your accreditations, your awards, your bio, your contact details, your properties, all about you.
Nick, I think it's important to just reemphasize, I think, that in terms of these brand elements that we spoke about, and we gave numerous examples, I think you'll agree with me that agents need to pick key ones that they think are going to move the dial in their space or their community. I think leveraging all of them up front and at once might be quite a daunting exercise for most agents. So I think with the conversion space buttoned down, this profile page or agent microsite, I think the agents or specifically agents need to pick maybe one or two of those elements and really drive those hard in terms of converting people back to their spaces now.
Yeah. Louis just mentioned in the chat here that just in terms of the social media posting, that you can schedule these things, which is a good point. You know, it's we mentioned that you need to do it daily, but you can spend time and get these things scheduled so that you don't have to actually physically click the, you know, produce the content and click the button on a daily basis. You can generate it and schedule it. You know, and if you're doing a social media, if you have a campaign to post daily on social media, we recommend that if you're not working with someone like PropData and doing it yourself, that you do come up with a strategy and define what you're going to post each day. Otherwise, it's very hard to post every day.
Yeah. Okay. We will be disseminating the slide deck along with the webinar. There'll be a post email that goes out to all the registrants, and you'll be led to a landing page where the video will be hosted along with this deck. What we've decided to include with the deck is some very useful pages. It's an array of reference points from our course, from other pages and blog posts that we found on the internet that are very useful. So please look at this. They're relevant to each one of the sections that we've covered today. And I'm sure you can glean a lot of usefulness from these links as well. So yeah, just lastly, we want to just answer some of the questions. I noticed that there are not a lot of questions that have been posted. So yeah, Nick, let's just go through these and answer them collectively. There's one from Alan, which is talking about email signatures and branding, and asking, do you use your own in-house development code, or do you use software code from a third party? So any email signatures that we produce are definitely coded in-house by PropData. And I think the important point to emphasize there is we cross mail client test that code to all the major mail client interfaces, so that you guarantee that the signature you receive will render correctly on all the major mail clients. So if we're talking about Microsoft Outlook and the various versions of it, Gmail, Apple Mail, we obviously tested against the Mobi versions of those clients as well. So you're almost guaranteed that, that the signature will render perfectly as per the design that we develop. Moreover, if we use our automated branding solution as well, that same code is applied and attached to the email automatically, and it's done and tested in a way that we know it's going to render correctly as well. So there's a lot of time and effort. Some people tend to question the amount of money that we charge for these things, but a lot of that time goes into not only designing and developing them, but obviously testing them thoroughly as well. Nick, I don't know if you've got any comment on the one raised by Ted there. It's an important...
Okay, let me just run through here. I'm not sure if all attendees can see this question, so let me just read it out. Hey guys, perhaps a good idea to explain how content can be disseminated. So you mentioned types of content, example, evergreen, hyperlocal, but in terms of where this content is hosted, can you discuss microsites, blogs, social media, email, our newsletters? Can you explain where best to host and distribute this to create the ideal journey? Example, would a user find content on Google search? If so, where would this take them, and what would be the next step? Sign up to a newsletter, or would the content be sent to an existing database via email with a view to take into a microsite, or both? I think we did kind of answer that. When you generate content, the good thing is that you can use it in so many places. It does depend, but if you obviously there's copy that is very marketing driven, but when we were talking about content specifically for newsletters and blogging, we're really talking about content that you can use to post on your website. So a user would potentially search for something and find your blog post in the results and go to your website that way. And then you could encourage them to sign up for the newsletter to receive that sort of content if they find value in it on an ongoing basis. But in the same way, that content could go out to your existing users, in a monthly newsletter, or if you sent out a promo every time you posted a new piece of content. That's something definitely that you would want to notify your existing clients about.
I think the important point to
mention... I don't know if that
mention...
answers the question.
Yeah, I think it does, Nick, but I think even more pertinent to that is I think what's worth explaining to the audience is that if you subscribe to a prop data website package, in particular our classic website package, we house all of these pieces as part of the entire solution. So to put that into more simplistic terms, we give you the ability to not only blog and release content onto that website, but then we take that same content and we automatically mail it out via a newsletter facility housed in our management system to your mail list database. And we allow you to post that same content as a post on Facebook, for example. So I think the point there is that by putting your information in once to our management system, our platform then looks to disseminate that information into multiple exposure points, which then convert the consumer back to the right point on your website where they need to engage further with your information. Yeah. So I think that's a critical point for everyone to understand. For those of you who don't have our website solution, or do and don't fundamentally understand that all these pieces are actually joined by the ecosystem that we've built out. Yeah, I don't see any other questions there. Hopefully there'll be more in the next webinar because we'd love to answer any further questions that people do have. So yeah, I think we can end it off there, Nick. I think the last thing to say is that we will be sending out invites for the new webinar next month. We're hosting them once a month, so look out for that and register your spot. You can also navigate to our website, to our email newsletter page and sign up to our newsletter. We ongoing send out very useful information outside of this webinar content pieces, and you're able to sign up and receive that ongoing. And obviously, if you do that, you'll be notified about the webinar topics that are upcoming through the year. Yeah. So yeah, Nick, thanks very much. Wendy, thanks very much for joining in, and hopefully that was of use to all of you who attended. And thanks very much, and we look forward to seeing you again in the next webinar.
Thanks.
Pleasure, Mark.
Cheers, eh?
Cheers, everyone.
Bye everyone.